you are 3 seconds away from changing your life. Sounds dramatic, right? But hear me out. 3 seconds, that's shorter than a sneeze, shorter than loading a web page, shorter than the time you spend deciding which sock to put on in the morning. Yet those 3 seconds shaped my life more than any book, any seminar, or any motivational video I've seen. And if you stay with me, I'm going to explain how a single 3-second rule rewired the way I think, act, and ultimately how I live. It all started in the most ordinary situations. You know those moments where you hesitate? You want to raise your hand in class or in a meeting, but you keep it down. You want to volunteer, confess, call, apply, or just do something, but instead of action, hesitation builds. 3 seconds of waiting, and the brain steps in like a strict parent. No, too risky, too embarrassing, too hard. And just like that, opportunity dies. The number of times I personally sabotaged myself because I waited a little is embarrassing. That caused those 3 seconds of delays to be the graveyard of my courage. But then I discovered flipping the script. Instead of using 3 seconds to hesitate, use 3 seconds to act before the brain talks you out of it. That became the 3-second rule. Whenever my brain whispered doubt, I gave myself 3 seconds to move, literally 3, 2, 1. Act, call, speak, raise my hand, walk up, press send. Sounds simple, right? But this tiny shift created massive change. Here's the psychology. The brain has what scientists call the amygdala, the survival system that kicks in to protect you from danger. It doesn't know the difference between a lion in the jungle and the uncomfortable feeling of giving a presentation or starting a conversation. The moment you hesitate, the amygdala fires up fear alarms. That's why, after pausing for even a second, you start building excuses. But if you act physically before those excuses load, before fear completes its sentence, you bypass the resistance. This is why 3 seconds matters. It's just enough time to move, but not enough for fear to paralyze you. There was this one time I was supposed to present an idea in my office. Easier said than done. My heart was pounding like it was auditioning for a drum solo. My mind came up with every reason not to. You're not ready. Someone else will say it better. What if everyone thinks it's dumb? Normally, I would have stayed quiet. But I told myself, 3 seconds. 3 seconds to open my mouth. I counted 3, 2, 1, and my hand shot up like it had its own agenda. And do you know what happened? People listened. The room didn't explode. I didn't die. In fact, people respected me more for speaking up. That day, a single 3-second choice gave me more confidence than months of silent preparation ever did. The rule began to sneak into other areas of my life. I saw a stranger drop her books on the subway. Normally, I would have thought, should I help? Oh, maybe she doesn't want help. Maybe it'll be awkward. By the time I finished overthinking, she would have picked them up already. But with the 3-second rule, I just bent down instantly, handed the books back, smiled, done. 3 seconds turned a missed chance into a human connection. Another time, I hesitated for weeks about starting to exercise. Every day the excuses came. Tomorrow's better, not enough time, I'm too tired. But with the 3-second rule, when the alarm rang, I counted backwards, leaped up before my brain negotiated, and put my shoes on. Once you start moving, momentum takes over. Those 3 seconds created the habit. That one habit transformed my health permanently. Here's the secret truth. The brain loves comfort, but growth lives in discomfort. Every amazing thing you want, love, opportunity, respect, success lives just past the wall of hesitation. And every time we hesitate, we reinforce fear. But every time we act within 3 seconds, we build courage. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's micro-actions that overpower fear before it becomes king. Ask yourself, how many opportunities have you lost because you didn't T-act within those first 3 seconds? How many people you wanted to meet, goals you wanted to chase, dreams you wanted to start, but you paused and lost them? Think of the job application you didn't submit, the person you never asked out, the hobby you never began. All because hesitation had 3 seconds too many. When you realize that, the rule stops being a trick and becomes a lifestyle. Think about this practically. The 3-second rule forces action in areas where people stall most. Starting conversations, chasing goals, building discipline. For conversations, when you see someone interesting, count back and approach. For goals, when you feel lazy, count back and start before excuses arise. For discipline, when you're tempted to scroll endlessly, count back and put the phone down. Every time you do this, you teach your brain a new pattern. I am someone who moves, not hesitates. A new identity builds. One of the most powerful experiences I had with this rule was with rejection. Rejection is like public enemy number one of the human psyche. No one likes to hear no, but here's what I learned. When you act in 3 seconds, you remove the overthinking that magnifies rejection. I once wanted to pitch an idea to someone much more accomplished than me. Normally, I would overanalyze, find excuses, and convince myself I wasn't ready. Instead, I counted back, reached out in 3 seconds, and hit send. That pitch didn't land. But the act itself gave me proof that rejection is survivable. And because I didn't sit with fear for long, it didn't paralyze me. Later, on another 3-second push, I pitched again. This time it worked. Success was a byproduct of repetition, and that repetition was possible only because the 3-second rule turned fear into tiny, survivable acts. There's also neuroscience behind why counting backwards works. When you say 3, 2, 1, you focus the prefrontal cortex, the logical part of the brain. It interrupts the autopilot of fear. That backward countdown breaks old circuits of procrastination and builds new circuits of courage. The brain rewires, 1 microsecond decision at a time. Over days, weeks, and months, you essentially reprogram yourself to act braver. Over time, I realized that the 3-second rule doesn't only change what you do, changes who you are. I became less passive. I became quick to seize opportunities. I became someone who started instead of stalling, and people noticed that energy. It's not just inner change. Outwardly, others see you as more confident, dependable, attractive even. Confidence is magnetic, and quick action radiates it. But let me be honest, it's not easy at first. 3 seconds feels like diving into cold water. You'll resist. You'll say, I'll do it in 5 seconds. I'll just prepare a bit more. No, that's the brain's disguise for comfort. You have to commit to the number. 3, 2, 1. Move. Don't leave space for negotiation. The beauty of the countdown is finality. It feels like a rocket launch. You don't launch at -1, you launch at 0. That non-negotiable action is what makes it powerful. I cannot tell you how many experiences in my life were born just because of this rule. Friendships, career moves, health transformations. I gave speeches I never would have given. I danced at parties I would have stood against the wall at. I tried new skills, traveled alone, built projects, all of it because I realized life doesn't hand opportunities to thinkers. It rewards doers. Thinking is important, but thinking without action is like a Ferrari with no gas. The 3-second rule fuels the engine. And before you think it's too simple to matter, remember this: simple does not mean small. Breathing is simple. It's the difference between life and death. 3 seconds is simple, but it's the difference between courage and regret. Every major change in life is actually an accumulation of micro-decisions. The 3-second rule is like a trigger that flips micro-decisions in your favor. So here's my call to you. Whatever you're hesitating on right now, whether it's sending that text, signing up for that class, speaking your truth, don't wait. Next time the thought pops up, give yourself 3 seconds. Count down, then leap. Trust me, it won't feel comfortable. But comfort doesn't get remembered. Courage does. Discipline does. Action does. The 3-second rule changed my life because it rewired my default response. Instead of defaulting to fear, I learned to default to action. Instead of defaulting to excuses, I default to experiments. You don't need to know how it will turn out. You don't need certainty. You just need to move in 3, 2, 1. Fear is loud, but momentum is louder. One day you look back at your life and realize it wasn't T-shaped by years, but by a few seconds. The seconds you didn't let hesitation rob from you. Those 3 seconds might be the ones that lead you to your dream job, your soulmate, your passion, your new chapter. Think about it. A lifetime of impact packed into tiny pockets of courage. That is the power I found, and that is the power you now hold. The 3-second rule changed my life forever. If you let it, it will change yours too.